Hello everybody, thanks for clicking on this video. James Cards FC here, and today I'm going to be continuing my beginners series for the soccer card market, and we're going to specifically be talking today about mistakes to avoid when starting out. Now, we all make mistakes when we start out. It's inevitable that if you're starting out, you're going to be making some mistakes as well, and so I wanted to put together a video of some of the more common mistakes that happen when you jump into this market to try and save you guys some time and money, at least when you're first starting out. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it and start with mistake number one, which is buying random cards. This happens to pretty much everyone that comes to the market. You enter for the first time, you go on eBay, you go on ComC, you go on Total Collection, and you just see hundreds and thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of cards and different options. And so you get overwhelmed and you start to just buy random things without much critical thinking as to why you're buying them. You just end up buying them. This happens to everyone. It definitely happened to me, and it probably happens to pretty much anyone that's entered the market. So, for example, you want to buy a Pedri rookie card or Pedri rookie cards with a $50 budget. This is something that happens really typically when you get into the market. You want to buy an ultra-modern era player that you think is going to succeed over the short or the long term so you can make really good returns on it. That's a really common way to enter the market. So you'd say to yourself, I want to buy some Pedri rookie cards and I have $50 budget. What's probably going to happen is you're going to see hundreds and thousands of Pedri rookie cards, and you're just going to start buying random ones. You're going to end up buying things like this Steve Aoki Topps Chrome insert. You're going to buy the Stadium Club insert for Glimpses of Gold, I think this insert set is called. You're going to buy a base Chrome Pedri rookie card, things like that. A variety of cheaper Pedri rookie cards to get up to that $50 budget. When in reality, what you should be doing is just buying the one Pedri Sapphire rookie card or the one numbered Chrome color card for Pedri, the most obvious basic thing you can buy that will take up the full amount of your budget. So you're going to be much better off doing that. And the question you might be asking is why? This is because things like Sapphire or Topps Chrome numbered stuff, not inserts, specifically just the base card in different colors and numbers, these are mainstream, desired, highly popular sets that when people are looking for Pedri cards, this is the first thing that they look at. If you have experience on the market, you're not going to be targeting these things here. You're going to be targeting specifically things like this. So, this is important because when the Pedri market moves, say he scores a hat trick in a Champions League game, his market will move, and the first things that will move in the market are the Sapphire cards, are the numbered Sapphire cards, are the numbered Chrome cards. The most obvious mainstream things will be the first to move when there is a reason for the prices to move. So they'll move faster, and they'll also move at a higher velocity than the less popular alternatives because there's more people looking at buying, selling, and trading those as opposed to inserts like Glimpses of Gold or a Steve Aoki insert or a base Chrome card. So not only do they move faster, they move at a higher velocity. Now, this can be good in the good cases when Pedri scores a hat trick because then his Sapphire can go up 20, 30, 40% while the other cards don't even move. But on the downside, if Pedri gets injured or ends up transferring to a club that people aren't really that excited about, things like that, they can also drop at a faster rate as well. But they are more relevant in the hobby than these cards right here. So that would be my first level of advice, is to take some time specifically targeting the most mainstream sets. If you're in Ultramodern, I would recommend you studying Topps Chrome and Topps Chrome Sapphire, and at least for the first few weeks or months that you're going about learning about the soccer card market, specifically stick to those sets because they are the most obvious, the most mainstream, the most popular, and in the most demand, and then go ahead and branch out to these other sets once you're comfortable with learning the two main ones. So, just a piece of advice there on mistake number one as we move into mistake number two, ignoring vintage and pre-modern. Now, I know that you specifically may not be interested in these markets, but if you're going to be playing in the soccer card market in general, you need to really be aware of this, and I would recommend at least setting aside a certain percentage of your capital in the market to be specifically for vintage and pre-modern. Keep that percentage and don't touch it. Just let it do its thing. Very similar to in a stock market. You can pick individual stocks, but you're much more better off just investing in an S&P 500 index or any sort of long-term index. You need to set aside a specific percentage of money to do that with. Now, if you're approaching this market with the thought that I'm going to lose all this money, it's going to be gambling, and I just want to do Ultramodern, be my guest. But if your goal is to build capital, please do not ignore vintage and pre-modern. So again, this happens to pretty much everybody. You enter the market and you see how expensive Pele, Maradona, Messi, Ronaldo rookie cards are not even rookie cards, but significant cards. And you immediately turn to ultra modern because it's cheaper and has higher short-term upside. So I can't afford a Maradona rookie, but I can afford some different Pedri rookies. And Pedri is not Maradona yet, but he could be one day. So maybe someday I will make 1,000% returns on my investment. That is the sort of thinking that you usually start out with when you enter the market, and it's not the way that I would recommend going about it. So from personal experience, you end up spending the same amount of money on ultra-modern crap that you could have spent on nice pre-modern or vintage card. So this is my own personal example. In fall of 2020, I invested $2,000, don't do this, into raw Rodrigo, Vinicius Jr., Kubo, and Fati rookie cards. For the same price, I could have bought a 1978 Maradona rookie in PSA 3 condition. This is a 1978 Maradona sticker or a card from Argentina that is considered one of his rookie cards. I could have bought this in PSA 3 condition for around that same $2,000 price point at that time. The cards on the left-hand side here that I actually bought are now worth maybe $500 combined, while the Maradona is currently worth over $6,000. So that is the danger of specifically targeting ultra-modern players and completely ignoring the pre-modern or vintage players that in a lot of cases are actually better options. Now, I personally was okay on this end. I didn't lose all $2,000. I ended up grading all these cards, and I probably ended up taking a small loss or breaking even at the different points that I sold them, but I obviously would have done much better just parking that money into the one Maradona card. So I say here that this story will repeat itself. Do not ignore the vintage and pre-modern in favor of bulk or high-end ultra-modern, because you're going to end up doing the exact same thing I did and the exact same thing a lot of people do in the market, and you're going to burn money on ultra-modern when you could have at least set a little bit aside for the pre-modern or vintage. Now, I'm not telling you to buy things that you're not interested in or invest your money in ways you don't want to, but I do think it's not the best thing to just completely ignore it and only focus on ultra-modern. At least take a look at it and see if there's something that does interest you in that market. So, mistake number 3, ignoring population reports. Now, I think everybody when they enter the market doesn't even understand what a population report is or cares at that point, but it is integral in understanding why things are priced the way they are, especially at the points at which you are buying. So, what are population reports? These are resources that tell you how many copies of a card has been graded and the distribution of those grades. The most commonly referenced population report belongs to PSA because, as I've stated previously, they grade the most cards. So it's important to understand how many cards are also still in raw form that have yet to be graded. So there's 3 pieces to this. You need to understand how many cards have been graded, you need to understand the distribution of those grades, and then you need to understand how many are still out there raw that will be graded in the future. So let's talk about the Erling Haaland rookie sticker. So this is Erling Haaland's rookie sticker from the Fußball Bundesliga set in Austria, where he was playing for Salzburg at the time. This is one of his more mainstream rookies. You can see from the price graph here that it started out around $1,500 and then shot to the moon over a very short few months period where it was hovering around $8,000, got up to as high as $11,000 before a few months later dropping back down to $4,000, and it's been on the way down ever since. So the question is, why does this happen? And it's because of the population growth. So you can see back here, and this graph doesn't even go far enough back because the data wasn't being tracked back then, but when these purchases were being made, there were less than 50 PSA 10s total in the population report, and as you can see over time, that population report has grown to over 400. Now, the demand for the sticker is not the same as it was when it was at 50, as it was when it was at 400, so supply and demand starts kicking in, and these graphs moving in inverse directions starts to make a lot of sense. So the Haaland rookie sticker in PSA 10 shot from $2,000 to $10,000 after a string of strong player performance, as well as a wave of increased market demand at the time that he also had that increase in performance. So at the same time, there were less than 50 total PSA 10s in the population report, and there are now over 400. The buyers of the PSA 10 at $10,000 did not understand how many raw stickers were still available to be graded, and that's what you see here is there were still hundreds of raw stickers to be graded, and this population was not going to stay at 50 or below 50 for very long. In fact, it grew to 400 in 1 year's time. So it's integral to understand the population reports and especially the effect that they play in terms of prices. The sources that I'm using here are Card Ladder to chart the sales, but you don't need a Card Ladder subscription in order to look at these sales, but I do think it is helpful for at least myself. You can find these sales on eBay or any other source outlet where you can look up sales history. PWCC as well will have this sales history. So that is how I'm getting this data. And then this data specifically is from Card Ladder as well, but you can also go to gemrate.com that I'll leave a link to in the description so you can create graphs like this for yourself. At least at the time of recording, that website is free, but that may change in the future when you're recording this video, but I will still leave the link down below just in case you want to check that out. So, mistake number 4 is FOMOing into purchases. So FOMO in this case stands for fear of missing out, and it is one of the most commonly referenced emotions in the hobby, fear of missing out, and that causing you to make purchases or make selling decisions. So this applies to both overreacting to player performance or transfers or possible transfers, as well as overreacting to new product when it releases. So when a player does something unexpectedly positive, their cards tend to spike in value almost instantly. However, as time goes on, those prices correct and adjust to a new pricing level. Darwin Nunez is a great recent example of this. So I have labeled each phase of these in different colors. Green meaning there's not a lot of FOMO, orange meaning we're starting to get into a danger FOMO zone, and red meaning we are full-blown FOMO, and that's why the price is the way it is. So we'll start at the bottom here. In January of 2022, he was a relatively unknown Portuguese league star, and this green Obsidian card cost $132 on eBay. Then the next sale comes up in May 10th of 2022. The transfer rumors after UCL performances start coming up for Darwin. He's being linked to some of the top clubs, and that has caused his price to spike nearly 6x. So yeah, there's some FOMO going on at this point. People are concerned that if they don't buy now, he might end up transferring to a huge club, and they'll miss out on some profits there. So these people are actually end up getting pretty lucky. He does transfer to Liverpool, which is a dream transfer for him, probably the best transfer he possibly could have asked for, especially for the soccer card hobby that is so Premier League and top club focused. So his prices double again to $1,500 on June 15th of 2022, and this is where FOMO has reached its maximum point. People desperately want to buy Darwin cards. He doesn't have a lot out there, and they're willing to pay high amounts of money because now he is a Liverpool player and supposed future star at Liverpool. So FOMO reaches its peak point here at $1,500, but if you would have waited just 5 days later, the price corrects right back down to $1,000, and we're still in the orange FOMO zone. We still have people buying Darwin Nunez with fear of missing out on him as opposed to what his actual value should be. So I would still be concerned at this level. At least in my opinion, I think it's somewhat likely that it returns down to more of the $750 level, but based on how he performs at Liverpool, that price could look really high or really low, depending of course on how his career turns out. But just understand that FOMO has its role in all the decisions that were made here, and that is what is impacting the price. So, also, cards from new products always sell for a premium the week of their release. Please wait at least 1 month for prices to correct their baseline level. This applies to Topps Chrome, Sapphire, Panini Prism, any of these sets that come out. When they first hit the market, they will be their most expensive in a lot of cases, and then prices as the weeks and months go by since the release will decrease around 30, 40, 50%. We see this all the time. You can look at sales history to go ahead and check my logic on this, but it is your best interest to wait at least a month for the prices to correct their baseline level before jumping in on some of these guys in Topps Chrome. So for example, if you want to buy some Gavi cards from the newest Topps Chrome set that just came out at time of recording, you should wait at least a month for the prices to correct to a new baseline level and then go ahead and jump in on some Gavi cards. The exception does apply for super rare issues like one of ones, cards numbered out of 5, cards numbered out of 10. Those, in the case of the one of ones, they'll never come up again. In the case of out of 5 or out of 10, it's somewhat unlikely that they'll see the market in that short time span over the next month. So for specific cards like that, you probably have to pay the premium on their release just because they ended up getting pulled during the release. But in any other case, I would highly recommend you wait at least a month for the prices to correct their baseline levels and then go ahead and jump in on the guys that you're looking at from that set. Alrighty, and now we'll move into mistake number 5, and that is not learning to grade cards. So I would not advise against buying slabs altogether, as it is the safest way to transact in the market. You can't really get scammed if you're buying a slab from a top 4 grading company. They offer guarantees on the grades they give out, as well as if the slab is fake, things like that. These companies will protect you and they will help you out if, for whatever reason, something goes south in the transaction. However, the greatest ROI potential on the market comes from buying raw cards and doing the grading yourself. And I will give the example of what is going on with the Pedri Sapphire cards. Now, this is a snapshot in time right here, and obviously things will change, and they've probably already changed by the time you're seeing this video. So just use this as a basic example. These numbers and figures could change over time, but this is the sort of math you will be doing when you start looking at other cards to try and use this method for. So this Pedri Sapphire rookie base card costs $50 in raw condition, raw meaning ungraded. If you send this to PSA and get a PSA 9, it is worth $100 at current time. And if you send it to PSA and it gets a PSA 10 gem mint, it is worth $300 at current time. According to the PSA population report, you have a 32% chance at getting a PSA 9 and a 64% chance at getting a PSA 10. The rest of the percentages are given out for 8s, 7s, and 6s, but if you know what you're doing with grading, you're not going to send something that's going to get a 7 or an 8. So the math works out this way. If you submit 3 Pedri Sapphires to PSA at $50 a card, the odds are that you will receive 1 PSA 9 and 2 PSA 10s. So the math now works out that $300 all-in now becomes $700 in potential value. Cost you $300 all in, $150 in cards, $150 in grading fees is $300, and the $700 in potential value, 2 PSA 10s at $300, 1 PSA 9 at $100. That is how this basic grading example works out, and this is how you can generate some nice capital and market for yourself going forward if you can successfully grade cards. So I do say down here, you will need to know what to look for when you're grading cards, and the longer a card has been released, the less likely it is to be in gem mint condition. So this product, for example, came out nearly a year ago at this point, so it is unlikely that the raws that are out there on the market still adhere to these percentages. It is probably much more likely that this card is a 9, because it is likely at this point that this raw card has been looked over by a few different people for grading, and so at this point we can probably assume it's a 9 or less, because if it was a gem mint condition one, somebody would have already graded it. So I would recommend taking some time to figure out how cards are graded. There's things like centering, there are corners, there are edges, surface. So there's some great videos out there. You can just search on YouTube how to grade cards, and people will walk you through exactly how to do it. They'll teach you how to clean cards, how to prep them for grading. All of that information is out there. And if you're going to be in this market, at least in a pretty heavy capacity, I would highly recommend figuring out how to grade cards, because this is a great way to build capital as long as you understand each of the steps of the process, what you're doing, and the math that you will be playing with in order to try and capture this ROI. And also, like I said before, please keep in mind that the longer a card has been released, the less likely it is to be in gem mint condition. And so when we go back to this FOMO into purchases rule right here, some of the reason why cards are expensive when they first come out is because people are hunting gem mint 10 cards, and they're willing to pay that premium, because if a product just got opened and people are selling from that product, it's likely that they opened it and they have a gem mint condition raw card that they are just selling on eBay that they want to get quick cash for instead of grading themselves. So there's factors like that on the market. I would highly recommend learning to grade cards. Go ahead, look it up on YouTube if that's something you'd potentially be interested in. There's nothing wrong if you don't want to learn how to grade cards. You can just buy slabs and ride the waves of the market like that, but this is an option that can help you build capital if you understand what you are doing. So with that will conclude today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Go ahead and leave a comment down below if you learned something, or if you have any further questions about the market, or if you have anything that you want to see a specific video on going forward in the future that I can try to explain in case something in here is not making sense. I would love to clear that up for you. As always, Instagram DMs are open. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in our next video.